And he joins us. Nigel Farage is a UKIP MEP from southeast England, and he serves on the European Union Parliament. And he exposes the fact that it's the EU bureaucrats themselves that actually have set up a dictatorship, and the Parliament itself has become ceremonial, and he's now one of the leaders worldwide, globally, even more than Ron Paul, when it comes to fighting unelected global corporate governance. And I wanted to get him on to talk about UKIP also under assault and demonization, because it's the fastest growing party, second largest in the European Union, out of England right now as well. The system's really scared of them. But sir, you've got the floor here. Thank you for coming on with us. Tell us where Europe is right now. You've been predicting its collapse because of its authoritarianism, like the Soviet Union. Now it's openly saying it wants to dissolve whatever sovereignty's left of the member states. Where is the euro right now, sir?
It's a mess. I mean, the currency doesn't work. And again today, we've had another negotiation for yet another set of tens of billions to be sent to the Greeks. Not, of course, that money actually helps the Greek people. It gets recycled through the Greek government straight back to French and German banks. We've got youth unemployment now in southern Europe between 50 and 60% in those southern European countries, and a massive north-south split in the European Union. I mean, basically, the economic logic says the whole thing's a failure, it should break up. But on the other hand, what we have is the political will of the project, and they have an iron grip at the moment over these ancient democracies, I'm afraid, and they are determined to keep the Euro project going, and their new plan is to strip out any remaining sovereignty that existed in those countries and vest it with unelected people based at the center. It is a recipe for revolution, because people simply will not put up with declining living standards being imposed upon them by bureaucrats that they can't vote for and they can't remove.
And you've been in the parliament since 1999, exposing this as a very quiet voice, one of the founders of UKIP. Now, I mean, I see the news reports out of the UK. Your party is exploding. We're going to get to some of the socialist demonization and Marxist demonization of your party that doesn't want 80+% of your laws made by unelected bureaucrats in the euro. But expanding on this, you just hit the key here, Mr. Farage, joining us from England, folks, that they take the money, give it to Greece, and recycle it back to the technocratic bankers who are now appointing their own people over Italy, over Greece. I mean, you're one of the leading experts and resistors to this. Can you tell Americans and people in North America, but also our listeners in Europe and England, exactly what we're facing with this Euro tyranny and what they plan to do if they're not defeated?
Well, I mean, the fact is that the banking system and politics became hand in glove, one and the same thing. And that's been a complete disaster. And the amazing thing is, I mean, we have had elected prime ministers in Greece and Italy removed by the bully boy bureaucrats and replaced by former Goldman Sachs employees. I mean, you honestly cannot believe what is going on. And their plan is to make this whole thing even worse, is to make elections in countries total irrelevancies, to build for themselves, you know, big new palaces in Brussels, Luxembourg and Strasbourg, and so that they can be the masters. And they think, in their own sort of Walter Mitty way, that somehow they are going to become the world's global superpower. Well, they're living in dreamland, because the internal contradictions of the whole thing simply don't work. And while they're doing that, they're not just taking away democratic freedoms, they're also stripping out liberty by putting in place a system where they can monitor the internet, where they can monitor phone calls. I mean, we are heading in Europe for the Orwellian nightmare.
And that isn't just rhetoric. I mean, I see the reports constantly where they're getting rid of free speech in the continent. They're trying to get rid of free speech in the UK. They are demonizing people that are just for mild national sovereignty. For U.S. listeners, I would liken you guys to kind of constitutionalist, Ron Paul-esque. You were a successful businessman and worked in the markets, I know, in your own right. You come from the real world And then we all watch and post at Infowars.com the amazing debates you have, and when you get up there and excoriate the unelected bureaucrats and they laugh at you or try to censor you, and then everything you talk about comes true. So tell us what's coming next, looking into your very accurate crystal ball.
What's coming next is that despite the problems that Southern Europe has, they lack leadership to get themselves out of the crisis. We will have, within the next 2 years, under a series of proposals that come from the unelected European Commission, but supported by the current German government, a new form of banking union, economic union, fiscal union, political union, and the whole thing completely unaccountable to the electors in any member state. And I honestly believe that those Southern European countries, trapped inside a currency that doesn't suit them, desperately in need of getting a devaluation and also getting back their democracy, because, of course, that acts as a safety valve. And I see the European monster getting worse over the next 2 or 3 years, and I see the suffering of people in the Mediterranean reaching a real crisis point. And I think the danger that Southern Europe faces is there could be a spark, and that spark could lead to something akin to violent revolution. And I think, frankly, the whip hand is now so firmly with the bureaucrats. You know, they hold all the cards, that possibly violence is the only way out of this.
Wow, unprecedented. And I know you've spoken about this, but I've read and confirmed it. Eastern Europe being brought in to the euro, many of the communists, not just socialist, operatives and apparatus controllers have now found a second unbelievable life in the bureaucracy and are recreating the Soviet Union.
Oh, very much so. I mean, the European Commission in Brussels is stuffed with people who, before the Berlin Wall came down, prospered under the old communist system. We've had commissioners, 6 commissioners here, who were actually members of the Soviet Communist Party, members of that system that murdered 40 million of its own people, that led those countries to absolute misery and ruin, and they've now reinvented themselves. And frankly, what we've got now in Europe, and certainly governed from Brussels, is an updated form of centralized demand management economy. This is the new communism. Of that I have no doubt. And when I say that in the Parliament, when I say that when I meet them, they look very uncomfortable because they know that I'm right.
What about this new EU symbol I've seen on posters hanging up at government buildings that has hammers and sickles on it?
No, we haven't really reached that stage yet. What they're trying to do is to impose their flag. You know, the flag that the Ryder Cup team had. Sorry to sort of put a sore point on America, but the Ryder Cup team even had that flag, the blue flag with the 12 stars. That's the symbol that really matters to them. And they think that we in Europe are going to swear allegiance to that flag. Well, we're not. We're too different. We're too diverse. We speak different languages. We have different histories and cultures. And the attempt to impose a false nationality upon us is going to lead to ruin.
Sure. Obviously, it's all over the UK papers. UKIP foster couple agony, children taken. Council tells them they're racist because they're part of UKIP. I mean, this is incredible slander, libel, defamation.
It is. What happened is truly astonishing. A couple in their late 50s who have been fostering for the last 7 years and apparently doing it very well, are both members of UKIP, activists in UKIP, and they currently had in their charge 3 young kids from very difficult backgrounds who happen to come from an Eastern European origin. And they were doing well with these kids. You know, by all accounts, they were doing very well with these kids. These kids were learning English. These kids were getting on. And there was the knock at the door. And the knock at the door from the council officials said, "We have been tipped off that you're members of UKIP." It's as if it's sort of Eastern Germany, isn't it? You know, and we believe your party to be racist, and therefore it is inconsistent and wrong for you to have these children. And so these 3 kids were taken away from this couple that were giving them love affection, helping them to get on to the real world. They've been placed elsewhere. They've been split up, which makes it even worse. And these two decent people, just because they support a party that says we should not be part of this European monster, and that whilst we have no prejudice against anybody, from anybody in the world, we ought to have a degree of immigration controls about who comes into Britain, these people have been slandered. And it is, I think, just about the most revolting case I can see in modern Britain of an absolutely mad socialist Marxist mindset that has taken over local government in Britain. But there is one piece of good news about it, and that is that the whole country is absolutely revolted by what has happened.
And they won't apologize. Let me talk to you here in the break and see if you can do 5 more minutes to finish this. If not, we'll say bye here in a moment. But thank you. We're going to break. Folks, I've been following this. We've got it all linked up at prisonplanet.com and Infowars.com. Or just type UKIP into a search engine and click news. Hundreds of articles. The town council admits they took the kids because they're members of UKIP, one of the biggest parties. It's basically like the Libertarian Party. It doesn't even get into racial issues.
As we saw in Katrina, and as we are watching now in New York and New Jersey, the federal government can't and won't help you in a crisis. FEMA ran out of water and MREs in days. Electricity is still off to over 1 million people. The Red Cross, who is quick to beg for money, is now slow to react. Don't put it off any longer. Get prepared today. The Infowars shop is the largest distributor of ProPure water filter systems. And now, get 15% off your ProPure order with the promo code WATER15. While you're on InfoWarsShop.com, check out these other great preparedness items. The Aquapod kit lets you store up to 65 gallons of water in your bathtub. The Pocket Socket provides you with manual electricity for small electronics like your cell phone. The Life Straw is great for your bug-out bag. And check out our complete line of Interfood products for great tasting and nutritionally dense foods that have a great shelf life. If you are looking to secure your home in a crisis, you can order Strategic Relocations, the film, a great companion to the book Strategic Relocations 3rd edition, and The Secure Home by Joel Skousen. When the time to perform arrives, the time to prepare has already passed. Get prepared now, so if a crisis strikes your home, you and your family will be secure. Go to InfoWarsShop.com and don't forget the promo code WATER15.
If you follow international politics that affect us here in North America, because it's all intertwined by the same bureaucrats, the same mega banks that brag they've conquered Europe and the U.S. I mean, there's headlines where they brag they took us over by fraud, by derivatives. You'll know that Nigel Farage, a member of the European Union Parliament hailing from England, from the UK, is our champion over there. I mean, he's the Ron Paul in Europe. And we're just so honored to have him here with us in this short final segment. And another guest is joining us. And, of course, it was 2 years ago that he survived an incredible plane crash. Went back on May 6, 2010. We'll actually put that news article up on screen for people. Just unbelievable photos of the plane upside down with him and the pilot. And then he actually walked out of it. Just absolutely brutal photos that we'll scroll through there for people. But you've got the floor, sir, and the time we've got left here, finishing up with this family and this new attempt to demonize that you're not putting a good face on it. It has absolutely backfired in every newspaper I've seen.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, everybody, even the left-wing press, are saying this has gone too far, this is disgusting. The trouble is, whilst there is a wall of support for what we've had to say and for this, the council in Yorkshire who did this have announced there'll be an inquiry. Now, on the face of it, that sounds good, but really, this is just kicking the can down the road. I want an apology for these parents. I want those kids to be brought back together and returned. I want these people pardoned, and I want heads to roll. And it just shows you how government works in the Western world now. The woman who made the decision to take those kids away, working for a local council in a small English provincial town, is paid a salary of £130,000 a year. That's $200,000 a year. This woman gets paid to look after kids in Rotherham, and I want her to be sacked. I want her head to roll. And if we don't get the right redress from all of this, then I will, on behalf of this couple, take legal action, because people like this just must not be allowed to be bullied by the state. This case sums up just what goes wrong. We're very, very close now to having a thought police in our country, and I'm going to fight it with all my might.
It's Joyce Thacker, Director of Children's Services for Rotherham Council. And again, this isn't you saying they took the kids because they were constitutional, you know, pro-UK sovereignty, sanity, just mainline, good libertarian folks. But, I mean, if they took these from bad people who, you know, were white supremacists or black supremacists, still you don't take their kids. Now we've gotten to the point where they're proud of it and are saying that this is the way it is. This is the thought police.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it really is. I mean, this is the Orwellian nightmare come true. I think, this case illustrates just how bad, just how rotten things have become. But listen, I'm going to do my best to make sure Joyce Thacker loses that big salary she gets for not looking after kids in Rotherham. And I want this decent couple, you know, really good people who society needs, and I want them pardoned, back on the foster register. And I think also they probably deserve a bit of compensation for what they've been through.
But again, they intend to stick to their guns, saying that one of the biggest parties in the UK is evil. I mean, it's clear that if these people have their way, I mean, I see them all the time calling in the UK for the arrest of people that don't believe in man-made global warming, who don't want to pay Al Gore money.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, there is a huge ideological war, isn't there, that's going on here between those of us that believe in free speech and liberty and the right that we can agree and disagree on things, and this new horrible, bureaucratic, monstrous state that is gone beyond the democratic process. And I mean, in a sense, you know, this case in Rotherham is just a little small example of my bigger battle against the whole European monster. It's about, frankly, I believe, Alex, it is about the battle between good and evil.
It is. In the 1 minute we've got left, how do people get involved who are listening in the UK to UKIP, and people in Europe who want to export these ideas of freedom against the ideas of tyranny?
Absolutely. This battle is as important in every other European country as it is in the United Kingdom. If you look at ukip.org, you'll see what we're doing. It's a good website. It's updated every day. We are the campaign for truth and liberty. We've got the establishment in Westminster absolutely terrified of us. And you know what? We haven't even started yet.
Worldwide, people are waking up to the globalist tyranny, and member of parliament from the UK to the EU, Nigel Farage, amazing videos as he does battle with the globalists. Thank you for the time. I know you're under the weather, and we're glad you survived that plane crash. God bless you, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right, there he goes, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. Let me tell you, if you don't know who that guy is, you better find out. Just dynamite the way he tears them up.